friends, it's Miss Megan. I have a Bible story, but you know what? I have a special guest who's telling us the Bible story today, and I think you'll recognize her. Some of you have her in class usually. It's Miss Nancy. So let's see what Miss Nancy has to say about the story for this week.
Good morning, boys and girls. I'm going to be sharing the story this morning, and I'm using the Bible on my phone, so that's why I'm looking over to the side to make sure that I don't forget any of the parts of the story. Our story is from the book. Let me try that again. Our story is from the book of Matthew, chapter 21, verses 33 through 46, and it's called Jesus' Parable of the Tenants. Now, tenants are renters. They're people who rent something from somebody. And Jesus told this story when he was visiting Jerusalem one day. And he was talking to the religious leaders who didn't like him. They were jealous of him, and they didn't believe that he was God's son. And so a lot of times they tried to ask him questions to trick him. But this time Jesus had a story to tell them. And it's the parable of the tenants. A parable is a story that's supposed to teach a lesson or help us learn something. And Jesus said, one day there was a landowner who planted a vineyard. He put a wall around it. He dug a wine press in it, and he built a watchtower. Then he rented it to some farmers and moved to another place. Well, the farmers took good care of the vineyard. They trimmed the grapevines, and they weeded, and they made sure everything was just right. And when the end of the growing season came, they had beautiful grapes, a beautiful harvest. And so the landowner sent some servants to go collect his fruit. Well, when his servants got there, the tenants said to themselves, we're not going to give that fruit to the landowner. We want it for ourselves. So they beat the servants. They threw them out of the vineyard, and they even killed one of them. Well, the landowner sent some more servants to collect his fruit, but the tenants did the exact same thing again. They beat them and wouldn't let them have anything that belonged to the landowner. Well, finally, the landowner thought to himself, well, if they won't respect my servants, I'll send my son, because they will respect my son. Well, when the tenants saw the son of the landowner coming down the road, they said to each other, look who's coming. It's his son. Oh, wow. The son is going to inherit this when his father dies. But we want it, so let's get rid of his son. So when the son came, they grabbed his son, they threw him out of the vineyard, and they killed him. Jesus stopped, and he looked at the religious leaders, and he said, what do you think what do you think the landowner is going to do with those tenants? The religious leaders said, well, they're going to call the police and going to have them all thrown out and thrown in jail. And Jesus looked at them and he said, haven't you read in the scriptures, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. And then he kept going. He said, therefore, I tell you that the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people who will produce its fruit. Anyone who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces, and anyone on whom it falls will be crushed. Well, the religious leaders knew that Jesus was talking about them and that they were just like the bad tenants who didn't respect the landowner's son because they didn't respect Jesus. They were not very happy. But we can learn from Jesus' story. Jesus said that just like the landowner would take the vineyard away from the bad tenants, the people who didn't believe in him, and give it to the good tenants who did believe in him and would take care of it, that's kind of like us. We would be the good tenants because we believe in Jesus and we love him, and so we do what he wants us to do, and we give God the glory. And that Jesus said that he's like the cornerstone. Well, in the Bible, it's not very clear if the word is capstone or cornerstone. In fact, the Bible uses both words to describe Jesus. So here is a picture of a capstone. A capstone is a rock that is put in an arch like this, right in the middle, and it holds the arch up. So if you look at that, you can kind of imagine what would happen if this stone was pulled out. See how the other stones are leaning? If you pull this stone out, all those stones are going to come crashing down into just a big pile. That's kind of like Jesus. If we don't have Jesus right in the middle of our lives, we aren't paying attention to him, our lives are going to just fall apart, kind of like this arch, and they won't work out right because Jesus isn't there. The other word the Bible uses is cornerstone. And a cornerstone, way back in Jesus' day, was a very important stone. When somebody was building a building, the first stone they put down was called the cornerstone. And they always made sure the cornerstone was as perfect as possible, because the cornerstone is what all the other stones were built around. So if the cornerstone was crooked, then all the other stones were going to be crooked, and their house would be crooked, and it might even fall down. So they made sure it was absolutely perfectly placed and as close to perfect as they could make it. And that's what Jesus is, because he is perfect. If we build our lives, if we follow him and do what he wants us to do, then our lives will be in order and they will be straight and things will work out because Jesus has control of them and he has made sure that they are perfect. Our memory verse today says that Jesus is the stone you builders rejected, which has become the cornerstone. Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. Salvation is found in no one else. It means it's found only in Jesus, nobody else. Jesus Christ is the only person, the only thing that can bring us salvation. That's why he is our cornerstone. And that is from the book of Acts, chapter 4, verse 11. Have a wonderful day.